order. Welcome to meeting number 5 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Status of Women. To begin, I would like to thank all of the members for being here once again today. I also like to thank the vice chairs, subcommittee members, and staff for working diligently to prepare for today's meeting. To ensure an orderly meeting, I would like to outline the rules. Occupational Health and Safety has requested that we limit our movement in the room and wear a mask unless seated. Floor markings indicate the path of travel, which goes this way around the table, so going counterclockwise. Individuals should respect physical distancing and remain 2 meters apart from one another. Seats and microphones are placed in manner so that everybody is properly physically distanced. To minimize health risks, we are allowing 1 staff today, and other staff members are able to get on via calls. You will note that no paper documents have been distributed, and all documents that you will find or any conversations that you need to have go through FEWO at parl.gc.ca. Today, we're going to be studying the impact of COVID-19, the pandemic, on women. We will be accepting briefs from the public, general public, anytime up to July 30th and asking for them to be 2 to 3 pages. If any people have questions regarding those briefings that they would like to put forward, please contact the clerk at fewo@parl.gc.ca if you have any questions regarding that. During the questioning of witnesses, there will be 6-minute round for the first round. We'll be going round 1 with Conservative, Liberal, Bloc, followed by NDP. For the second and subsequent rounds, the order and time for questioning is as follows. Conservative Party, 5 minutes. Liberal, 5 minutes. Conservative Party, 5 minutes. Liberal Party, 5 minutes. Bloc, 2.5 minutes, and New Democratic Party, 2.5 minutes. Just on this, because we recognize that our time and is so sensitive, we also recognize that both ministers would like to be at the Committee of the Whole today. So I'm asking that everybody is very aware of their timing. If you're provided 6 minutes, you will be cut off at 6 minutes. If you're provided 2.5 minutes, you'll be cut off at 2 minutes and 31 seconds. That's for you, Linz. But I just want to make sure everybody recognizes that time is of the essence right now. So please always respect the time that we're using today so that we can get all of the information and all of the questions that we have from all individuals sitting at this table so that we can move forward. I am also honored to welcome today the Honourable Marian Monsef, the Member of Parliament and Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Rural Economic Development, as well as the Honourable Carla Qualtrough, Minister of Employment, Workforce Development and Disability Inclusion. Minister Monsef is being accompanied by Guylaine Roy, Deputy Minister, Women and Gender Equality for Canada, and Nancy Gardner, the Assistant Deputy Minister for Women and Gender Equality of Canada. Minister Qualtrough is accompanied by Catherine Adams, Senior Assistant Deputy Minister, Strategic and Service Policy Branch, Andrew Brown, who's the Director General, Employment Insurance Policy, as well as Philippe Misset, Director General, Temporary Foreign Workers Program. I invite the ministers to now have their opening remarks. Your remarks will be 10 minutes, and at that time, at your 10 minutes, I will be cutting you off. So I would like to welcome to the floor the Honourable Marian Monsef for her 10 minutes. Welcome, Marian.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Hello, colleagues. Bonjour, Anin, salam alaikum. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. I wish the same for your loved ones and for your teams. Given that this is my first time in front of a committee in our post-COVID world, let me take this opportunity to thank the Public Service of Canada for all the ways that you've put everything on the line. We are truly blessed to have the world's best public service moving Canada forward during this difficult time. And of course, it's wonderful to be here with Minister Qualtrough, who has been moving some significant pieces forward, least of all the CERB program. Madam Chair, I am very much looking forward to the response that comes from your committee as we navigate the ongoing impacts of the pandemic on the most vulnerable, on women, and the path to recovery. I want to thank you for the work there. I'll talk about our government's response to COVID. Would like to spend a bit of time talking about the impact on women and the road to recovery. But first, let me talk about this book. And those of you from Winnipeg and those of you who've been around the last little while know that Runaway Wives and Rogue Feminists is a book that tells the story of the women's shelter movement in Canada. So maybe I'll start with that. In 1971, the Liberal government of the day introduced the Local Initiatives Program and the Opportunities for Youth Program. These programs were to support those who were experiencing particular vulnerabilities during a time of severe economic downturn. The program encouraged Canadians, particularly women and young people, to find solutions to pressing local challenges and receive a modest amount of funding from the federal government to help turn those ideas and solutions into action. Among the many ideas that came forward were an idea put together by young women across the country. They came together in the early 70s and started the women's shelters in Canada, the very first women's shelters in Canada. Today, there are some 600 women's shelters in Canada because a group of young women came together to ensure that battered women and their children had a place to go in their hour of need. In 1996, my family and I were able to stay at one of those shelters. Because of a decision that was made in 1971, because of investments made in 1971, people today are benefiting from the thoughts, the creativity, and the opportunities that have been created. We are going to see young people seize opportunities to propose solutions that we haven't thought of. And the story of the shelter movement in Canada is a really good reminder of the opportunities that can be seized in times of difficulty. When the pandemic hit, one of our immediate responses was to provide $50 million to organizations that are providing supports to those experiencing increased rates of gender-based violence due to the isolation measures in Canada. To date, some 1,000 organizations have been able to keep their doors open, have been able to keep their staff paid, have been able to keep their buildings clean, and provide a place of refuge for women and children in really dark hours. We started our efforts by focusing on shelters and sexual assault centers, and then we were able to flow funds in a new way, in a way that we hadn't done before, to organizations that provide gender-based violence supports, but do so without having the specific mandate of being a shelter or a sexual assault center. That includes a range of orgs, for example, that are doing work in the downtown east side and organizations that are working in smaller rural communities. And of course, organizations that are providing supports to victims of human trafficking. There is more to do. There is more to come. We are moving forward with the plan to develop Canada's first national action plan on gender-based violence. And I will have more to say very soon about our efforts to support victims of human trafficking in this country. From the very beginning, we recognized that those who are most vulnerable would be hardest hit by COVID. And every step that we've taken has taken that into account. The intersectional gendered lens that the Government of Canada applies has been applied to all of our efforts. I am happy to talk more about that. And there has also been a recognition that women have been hardest hit by COVID. Jobs lost, the work on the front lines, the care responsibilities taken on because schools and daycares have been closed and because elders have needed help, as well as the shadow pandemic that's been gender-based violence. Women have been hardest hit. And if we're going to get out of this she session, we're going to have to support women in their needs to get back to work and ensure that we remove barriers. Otherwise, we lose the hard-won gains that so many before us have fought for. Our focus on the vulnerable has led to millions of Canadians being supported. The 1,000 organizations that we were able to support with gender-based violence funds, while their impact supports some 3 million women and children in this country. The CERB has benefited over 8 million Canadians. The CEWS, or the wage subsidy, has supported close to 3 million workers. The Canada Child Benefit Top-Up has supported 3.7 million families with kids. The GST credit top-up has supported 12 million low and modest income individuals and families. The CESB has supported some 600,000 students. The OAS and GIS top-up has supported 6.7 million elders in our country, and they will be receiving the top-up this week. The CEBA loans have supported 688,000 businesses, and there are additional supports for those businesses being worked out. Madam Chair, the road to recovery from this unprecedented global pandemic will be hard. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. There is still a lot that we don't know about the virus, including how it spreads. But I am proud of the ways that Canadians have come together in shared sacrifice to protect the most vulnerable. I am grateful to everyone who's been on the front lines of this work, particularly the women who have put everything on the line. And then some have had to have really difficult conversations with their loved ones about why they can't be in the same house with them as they do the work they do on the front lines. I'm talking about frontline workers. The road to recovery has to include supporting women and the most vulnerable, and there is an opportunity here too. The pandemic has revealed strengths in our systems, for example, the Public Service of Canada, for example, our democratic institutions, for example, our universal healthcare system. It's also exposed cracks in our system that make too many vulnerable. We have an opportunity in the path to recovery, in the reimagining of our country and these systems to rebuild back better. And it's going to take every single one of us to work together to make that happen. I want to thank you again for giving me a space. I want to thank everybody who's worked so hard to make this different way of doing business and doing Parliament possible. I'll hand it back over to you, Madam Chair, and look forward to the conversation we are to have.
Thank you very much, Minister Monsef. I'm now going to move over to Minister Qualtrough. Minister Qualtrough, you have the floor for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis heureuse de me joindre à vous aujourd'hui.
I'm pleased to be here with you to discuss emergency measures that have been taken in my portfolio: employment, workforce development, and disability inclusion during the pandemic. I'd like to talk about the inaudible and gender-based equality. All of the measures implemented are in keeping with the work that we've done to ensure equity.
Given the speed of severity in which the pandemic struck our country, we made a decision to act as quickly as possible in order to assist Canadians by issuing financial assistance immediately. We lost no time. We acted swiftly and promptly with the CERB, student benefit, wage subsidies, and other measures. We accepted that our response would not be perfect, but we were committed to being quick and to ensuring we could deliver. Canadians were relying on us, and we would be there for them. We know that the pandemic has disproportionately impacted women, putting them at greater risk of job loss, poverty, food insecurity, loss of housing, and domestic violence. And I'd like to provide an overview of some of our measures. As the pandemic made its way to Canada and began having tremendous impacts on our economy and our daily lives, our government acted quickly to create the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. This benefit was created to help all Canadians who stopped working due to COVID-19. I'll be honest with you, the CERB was conceived of, designed, approved, funded, and legislated within a week. This was a massive new program being delivered to millions of Canadians, and the timelines were quite extraordinary. And in this incredible timeline, there was no formal GBA Plus study done. I say this because I want to be frank with you, but this in no way meant did we not consider the needs and impacts on women at every decision point. There were things that we absolutely knew. By delivering the CERB outside the EI system, we know that we would be supporting Canadians with precarious work and Canadians who weren't eligible for EI. This meant that the most vulnerable workers, including women and persons with disabilities, would be supported, Canadians who would not have been supported through EI. We also knew that people would not be able to work for reasons other than job loss, such as sickness or quarantine, elder care, and child care. We knew that women would be the most impacted if the income support did not take into consideration these broader realities. We knew that women are generally overrepresented in minimum wage and low-paying occupations, such as educational services and food services, which we anticipated would be the hardest hit by the pandemic. And we knew how important it was to deliver a benefit that addressed the pandemic reality for every worker, women in particular. Grâce à cette prestation, tous les travailleurs admissibles reçoivent.
All eligible individuals receive $500 per week. Individuals who are sick, have to isolate or take care of children or other dependents.
Workers who are still employed but making under $1,000 every 4 weeks. To give you a sense of the scope of the need, more than 8 million workers have been paid more than $53 billion in benefits through the CERB. 51% of CERB recipients are men, and 48% are women, and 1% identify as gender diverse. We recently extended the CERB by 8 weeks to a maximum of 24 weeks. This is to ensure Canadians continue to get the support they need as the economy reopens. This is particularly important for women who are facing the reality this summer of not being able to work even if they have a job to go back to due to a lack of childcare or summer camps. Now, we recognize our best strength for recovery is getting people back into the labor force. This is why, with the extension of the CERB, we are encouraging workers who are able to return to work to do so, provided it's reasonable based on their individual circumstances. We are very realistic about the barriers being faced by women as they return to work. Now over to students and youth. We also know and have known from the beginning that this pandemic would have an impact on younger Canadians and had to think of innovative and targeted ways to support them. One significant way was helping students and youth through the Canada Emergency Student Benefit. Students who are not receiving the CERB could be eligible to receive $1,250 per month during these important summer months that so many of them count on for financial stability. Comme nous le savons au Canada,
our student population in Canadian universities may include up to 2/3 of the population of women. The interpreter mentions that the sound is not great.
We decided that students with permanent disabilities and students with dependents would receive an additional $750 per month. This recognizes the additional expenses being incurred by students who are parents and students with disabilities, as well as the additional barriers to employment being faced by female students, including the already mentioned lack of childcare options this summer. The CERB and the CESB have been providing much needed support to millions of Canadians, to millions of Canadian women. Let me now highlight 2 other initiatives that are benefiting women in particular. First, to help families. As was said, our government provided a one-time enhancement of $300 per child for families receiving the CCB. And starting July 20th, the CCB will be increased once again to keep up with the cost of living. Second, recognizing the particular vulnerability of our seniors in this pandemic and understanding that 54% of the Canadian population over 65 are women, we are providing a one-time tax-free payment of $300 for seniors eligible for old age security, with an additional $200 for seniors eligible for the GIS. Eligible seniors, as my colleague said, are receiving this one-time payment this week, and I know this will be welcome support for seniors in Canada. Turning now to persons with disabilities. In addition to women facing heightened barriers and challenges during this pandemic, persons with disabilities are also disproportionately impacted. Selon les dernières données disponibles,
based on the most recent data, women have more of a likelihood of being disabled than Canadian. 2 million over 1.7 million. Today, women are particularly vulnerable. Inaudible. Working in the most hard-hit sectors of the economy.
the community since the beginning. In the spirit of Nothing Without Us and the Accessible Canada Act, and to support Canadians with disabilities, we established the COVID-19 Disability Advisory Group. The advisory group has raised key issues affecting Canadians with disabilities in the areas of healthcare, employment, and social services, to name a few. They put an intersectional disability lens on the pandemic. They work with the Public Health Agency on guidelines to ensure people with disabilities are protected, listened to, supported, and accommodated as necessary during this pandemic. They raised issues of triage and visitor policies with the health minister, who in turn brought these concerns to her provincial and territorial counterparts, which resulted in significant policy changes. Et grâce en partie au Conseil du groupe.
Minister Qualtrough, if you could just hold for one
Yes.
moment, please. Is translation back? Minister Qualtrough, they are having difficulty hearing you for translation, and yes. So we're just looking at this for a moment here. I'm just stopping your time.
Nobody has ever accused me of being quiet.
I understand that, Minister Qualtrough. You and I have the same problem, I think. Thank you very much. So we're just checking into this. I've stopped your time, so let's see where we're going. Okay. Are we? You know what I mean? I just wanted to do my try. Minister Qualtrough, we are asking you to speak slowly so that they can work through all of this. So if you want to pick up where you were at,
People have asked me that before. So that's
gosh,
fine.
same with me. So if you could just continue and we'll go from there and so translation can work through it, okay? Go ahead.
Excellent. Okay. Et grâce en partie au Conseil du groupe, nous avons reconnu les.
And thanks in part to the group's advice, we have recognized that people with disabilities have to incur extraordinary expenses during the pandemic. On June 5th, the Prime Minister announced that disability tax credit certificate holders as of June 1st, 2020, would receive a one-time payment of $600.
Passed legislation to support implementation of this payment did not proceed as intended. Parties could not agree on the legislation, therefore the process to roll out this benefit has been delayed. However, I emphasize the delay part. We remain committed to finding a solution that delivers a supplement to Canadians with disabilities. Madam Chair, our government has been working relentlessly to mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus and protect Canadians' health and financial security during this pandemic. However, we know there is more work to be done. As we emerge from this crisis, we have an opportunity to design approaches to recovery that promote gender equality and a more inclusive society. That's what our government intends to keep doing. To help ensure we leave no one behind, we commit absolutely to conducting rigorous GBA analysis plus as we gradually take measures to reopen the economy. My department is proud of its GBA Plus Center of Expertise, which has evolved over the years, and it will play a key role in ensuring that GBA Plus is incorporated into our programs, policies, and initiatives as we move forward. Thank you, merci. I'm happy to as well answer your questions.
Wonderful, and thank you very much, Minister Qualtrough. As I indicated, time is really of the essence right now. We're 1 minute behind already, so I'm going to be passing the floor over. 6 minutes. I will be cutting everybody off at 6. As soon as your time is done on first round, you will be cut off at 6 minutes. We will be starting with our first CPC member, and Jag Sahota, you have the floor for 6.
Minister Qualtrough, on June 10th, during COVID Special Committee, I asked why GBA Plus analysis was not conducted on the programs that were rolled out by your government. You said, and I quote, "My goodness, Madam Chair, I'll say again how important it was from the very beginning that we took into account the needs of women and girls. And as we move forward into the economic recovery phase, how completely we make women at the very core of every decision." But we know this was not the case. Yesterday, we heard from several witnesses that GBA Plus analysis was not conducted on the programs that were rolled out. And you just acknowledged that. And that women could not have been core to every decision because of the significant gaps in the programs as they relate to women specifically. So I ask, If women and girls actually been at the core of every decision, as you said, how were there so many oversights and gaps as it relates to maternity leave and EI benefits? We heard yesterday there is a 50% ineligibility rate for SEWO for women-owned businesses. There are obviously massive gaps. What steps are the government taking to ensure that more businesses can access the SEWO? Short response, please.
Well, thank you. And I do stand by my words weeks ago and my words today that we did have considered the needs and interests of women. As we've rolled out things extremely quickly, we've responded, I think, very quickly to any gaps that have been identified. Some are more complicated, admittedly, than others. As a cabinet, we're committed to ensuring that gender-based analysis is taken into consideration. My honest comment in my opening remarks had to deal with the formality of that process. But as I said, we have never, the needs of women and taking into consideration that unique perspective has been fundamental to how we've responded in this crisis.
Thank you. Minister Monsef, I'd like to ask about the disturbing decision of your government to fund PACE, a Vancouver centre that promotes sex work as a choice, while refusing to fund the London Women's Abuse Centre, an organisation that has been steadfast in assisting women and girls who are being trafficked against their will. We heard witness testimony yesterday that described these cuts and the fact that human trafficking is not addressed in any of the COVID-19 economic relief programs as devastating, a betrayal, and said that people in their community are appalled. Women and girls are facing unprecedented rates of violence, and human trafficking has only increased during COVID. Can you explain to Canadians why you've turned your backs on the integral community organizations that are helping to save lives? Again, a short answer, please.
Madam Chair, let me correct the record. The organizations mentioned, including the London Women's Abuse Centre, have received funding. There is more funding to come, for which the organization and many other excellent organizations will be eligible for. There are some 1,000 organizations that have received emergency COVID funding in a very short period of time, in addition to the 500 that were receiving multi-year funding before the pandemic hit. Madam Chair, I want to also acknowledge that when I started as the Minister for Women, the department had about $20 million to give out in funding to organizations. This year, it's $120 million, close to that. So we believe that those organizations on the front lines are the most effective way to advance gender equality. We appreciate their incredible work, and we know that together we have more work to do.
Okay, thank you. Despite letters from opposition members, follow-ups from our offices, and calls from community organizations, the government still has not replaced the funding lost under the Measures to Address Prostitution initiative. New funding through public safety has been announced, but it is nowhere near being delivered. In fact, the government is currently cherry-picking organizations to solicit applications for future funding, none of which includes the organizations that have been left in the lurch by the cuts of MAPI. Their most recent call for proposal was done pretty much behind closed doors. It seems pretty clear that the silence from the government on this issue speaks volumes. How can your government stand by and claim to be open and transparent while it strikes backroom deals with groups on issues as important as human trafficking?
Madam Chair, human trafficking is a heinous crime, and that we have a $75 million strategy and a hotline and supports for women's organizations and work to be done to prevent it is a recognition that we need to do more as a country to address this. Half of the human trafficking victims are Indigenous women and girls, and that came out clear in the MMIWG calls for justice. There was no cuts a program sunsetted and we're moving into a new program. In addition, there was no cherry picking, Madam Chair. We worked with provinces and territories and organizations on the ground to come up with a list of organizations. Those organizations receive funding directly deposited into their bank account. 1,000 organizations receiving funding directly into their bank accounts has never happened before. We did that because we appreciate their work.
Thank you very much, Minister Monsef. The member's time has expired. We're now going to move over to Selma Saeed. Selma, the floor is for your 6 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Minister Qualtrough and Minister Monsef for all the work which you are doing on behalf of all Canadians as we all try to navigate through these unprecedented times. My first question is for Minister Qualtrough. Thank you for all what you have done during this pandemic. And throughout the COVID pandemic, I've been hearing from many of my constituents with disabilities who live on limited fixed incomes that they are facing increased costs, but they haven't qualified for programs such as CERB. They were pleased when we announced a one-time non-taxable payment of $600 to those eligible for the disability tax credit. But they are confused about why the opposition did not allow Parliament to debate this bill and what the status of this program is now. I know women with disabilities in particular need this support. So can you please help us understand just what happened and how we are going to get this support to those that need it, and especially the women who are living with disabilities?
I thank you for your really important question. And, you know, people with disabilities have and are facing extraordinary expenses specific to COVID and additional barriers to getting the support and services they need. And we wanted to ensure that we provided a supplement as opposed to an employment income replacement like we did with seniors that would ensure that these extraordinary expenses were the focus of this assistance. We knew there was a gap in terms of we were able to provide children with disabilities through CCB, seniors, students, low-income Canadians with disabilities through the GST, but there were a significant cohort. What this pandemic has revealed is a gap in our system and a weakness in our policy and programs that we can't easily identify a group of Canadians with disabilities to connect with directly. And the best group we had was disability tax credit claimants. But we needed legislation to allow the DTC data to be shared with my department in order to deliver this benefit. That's what the legislation would have done, unlocked that data to allow us to deliver this supplement. As I said in my opening remarks, I'm not in any way, going to let this go. We are going to find a way to deliver this. I'm baffled, given the all-party support we had for the Accessible Canada Act, that we couldn't get all-party support, even when we just took the disability piece out of and tried to put it forth on its own. But I'm no less committed. In fact, I'm more resolved to delivering this, and we're going to find a way, hopefully through legislation. That's the most inclusive and accessible way. But if not, we're working on other options. Thank you.
My next question is for Minister Monsef. As a Member of Parliament for Scarborough Centre, I represent one of the most diverse ridings in Canada. I know many newcomer and visible minority women who already found it difficult to find work in their fields even before this pandemic hit us. They often ended up in precarious and low-income jobs, and this has only worsened during the COVID-19 situation. In the COVID support programs your department is managing, have you ensured that a GBA plus lens was applied to those programs so that the unique challenges which are being faced by the diversity-seeking women is recognized and addressed?
Thank you so much for that. One of the realities that COVID has highlighted is that our economy, the care work that's done, it is disproportionately borne on the shoulders of racialized women, newcomer women, women whose work is essential to our survival, and yet women whose work is not compensated according to that incredible amount of labor we ask of them. And the precarity of their situations means that, for example, personal support workers have had 2-3 jobs to just try and manage to make ends meet. We can do better in Canada. And the work that my department has been doing over the past few years, and our government as a whole, is to recognize that there are groups of Canadians across the country who are underserved and underrepresented. And not only is that unfair, but unless we maximize the potential of those who have been on the margins of our societies and economies for too long, Canada won't reach its full potential. We did begin to take into account and measure. For example, 20% of our funds support women in rural communities. For example, a portion of our funds support Indigenous women and those organizations that are supporting them. We are doing more to dig deeper and figure out this percentage is supporting Black organizations, Black women's organizations, Indigenous women's organizations, racialized, but we have so much more work to do. And perhaps one of the positive outcomes of COVID has been a recognition across the country that unless our data that we collect as a nation at different orders of government is disaggregated by gender, race, and other identity factors, we're not going to be able to count every single person and measure our
Thank you very much, Minister Monsef. The time has expired. We'll now move over to Andréane Laroche. Andréane, 6 minutes, please.
Tout d'abord, merci beaucoup, Madame Monsef et
First of all, thank you very much, Minister Monsef and Minister Qualtrough, for being here today. I didn't hear everything Minister Qualtrough had to say, unfortunately, because of the quality of the sound, and this committee is extremely important. I would have liked to have had access to everything she said. I'm going to ask the following question to Minister Qualtrough. Some people are, when it comes to wage equality, how can we address this question? And if we're talking about a second wave, how can we better the economic power that women have so that they can get through this crisis?
Merci beaucoup pour la question. Moi, je dirais.
Thank you very much for the question. I would say that equal salaries is the most important thing for our government to achieve, especially in the wake of the pandemic, and that's what we are continuously working on. If women continue getting paid less for equal work, we'll never reach equality. So that's one aspect of equality, but it's a very important one. Now, this isn't my file. Maybe Minister Monsef can complete my answer, but as a human rights lawyer, I believe that this is essential, and I'm working with unintelligible, but perhaps Minister Monsef can complete my answer. Madam Monsef, I'd like to hear your take on pay equity.
MP Zahid, our economy, particularly the care work that's been done, unpaid care work, underpaid care work at best, has been done by women and women of diverse backgrounds. Pay equity is certainly a priority for us. We have put forward pay equity legislation, and the work around addressing the gender wage gap also includes ensuring that gender-based violence is addressed. If this most prevalent human rights violation is not addressed, women will not reach their full potential. If women are not supported, those who choose to, in paths to going into fields that are often male-dominated but also pay better, we're not going to reach pay equity. But I also agree that we need to work as a country to ensure that women get paid equally for work of equal value in the fields that they choose to be in. And COVID has heightened just how important women's work is, how important care work in particular is, and how we all need to do better to compensate those who are doing this work. The pandemic pay that our government put forward to support provinces and territories is an example of just how much we believe that that needs to happen, you know, for the sake of it being the right thing to do. But also, if we don't pay people fair wages, they're not likely to stay in those fields that we need them to stay in, and that's going to create a whole other set of challenges, as we have seen throughout COVID.
Oui. Vous avez fait un lien très intéressant.
You made a very interesting link between increasing women's pay, but also encouraging them to go in non-traditional fields for women. Speaking of non-traditional fields for women, we are working in one now, politics, which is traditionally a boys' club, and women are still having trouble making strides in this field. So can you perhaps link this with violence against women and how this violence against women does discourage women from entering certain fields? And do you have a timeline? Because COVID here does have and I have an article here about the fact that Madame Léonard-Zan was the victim of sexist and misogynistic violence just because she tried to defend the arms registry. How can you ensure that young women who see this are not discouraged from entering politics?
This is a male-dominated sector. Without a doubt, it is harder for women, racialized women, young women, women with disabilities and exceptionalities to get into politics, to get their name on a ballot, and then to win, and then to stay once they get here. Representation matters. Minister Qualtrough talked about the considerations in very short order that were taken into account in the development of, say, the CERB. The fact that we had people who had been homeless, the fact that we had people who had lived in poverty, different backgrounds around the cabinet table, allowed us to make those calculations very quickly. Representation matters. When little girls and boys and gender diverse people see us women around these tables, they begin to see themselves in those fields as well. But every time there has been movement forward for equality, for women's rights, there has been pushback. There was pushback when we got the right to vote. There was pushback when we entered the workforce. And there's certainly pushback now that we are in politics. Just look into any one of our Twitter feeds to see just how harsh and just how toxic that pushback is. Certainly, we play a role in supporting one another to show that women can work together and do politics differently. Certainly, our allies, particularly male colleagues, play a role.
Thank you very much, Minister
Media
Monsef.
plays a role.
Okay, we're
and
now.
There's so much more to say.
Thank you so much. I gave a few extra seconds there for translation. We're going to move our time over now to Lindsay Matheson. Lindsay, you have 6 minutes.
Thank you, and thank you to both ministers for appearing today. My first question is for Minister Monsef. So throughout COVID, and you acknowledged it too, there's a rise in domestic violence. We also know and heard yesterday that there's chronic underfunding of shelters. In the 2019 Women's Shelters Canada, they published a report on how they are constantly doing more with less. And specifically now during COVID, they cannot rely on fundraisers, and that money has evaporated. Yesterday, we heard again from those organizations that the short-term project-based funding model simply is not getting the job done, and it hasn't for many, many years. So my question is, do you have intentions in terms of your government to provide reliable, predictable core funding, one that allows organizations to deal with a potential second wave or any future crises or emergencies that occur? And will your government commit to converting the capacity building fund grants to permanent core funding, allowing those organizations and those women's organizations to break down the systemic barriers that they face?
Thank you for that very important question. You are right in that women's shelters and women's organizations, particularly over the past few decades, have had to find creative ways to make ends meet, and they've been able to maintain their services despite the whims and the values of the various governments of the day. We came in 2015, and one of our first steps forward on that front was providing supports to support and maintain 7,000 shelter units. We also carved out a third of the national housing strategy so that women who are staying in shelters could then move into affordable housing so that they could free up spaces, but also piece back and rebuild their lives. To date, about 29% of the national housing strategy has support builds for women. In addition to that, we were able to put forward funding to support shelters through capacity building funds, through the gender-based violence program, and the COVID response. One of the first calls was to Lise Martin, Women's Shelters Canada's Lise Martin. And in partnership with her and her team, we were able to get money directly into the bank accounts of some 500 shelters in Canada to respond to COVID. There's absolutely more work to do, and we know that the work around operations for these women's organizations and equality seeking organizations has to be done in conjunction and cooperation with provinces and territories. The National Action Plan for Gender-Based Violence is going to create an opportunity to further support these organizations. And MP Matheson, I do look forward to your continued advocacy and partnership to ensure greater sustainability for these essential services for Canadians.
Great, thank you. The other thing that we heard from every single witness yesterday was the need for affordable, reliable childcare. In fact, the economist Armin Yalnizyan said that without women going back to work, they cannot recover, the economy cannot recover without childcare, and that we would not only see a recession, we would actually see a depression. But the key here is that those spaces not only are available, but they are safe, they are licensed, and they are affordable, they are publicly funded. So is your government committed or willing to commit to ensuring that children and parents have equal access, no matter where they live in Canada, to that high quality early learning childcare, much like it's enshrined within the Canada Health Act that everyone has access to healthcare, that they could have access to affordable, publicly funded childcare?
The short answer is yes. We are working with provinces and territories with the Safe Start Agreement, with the $14 billion that's on the table, to support the safe reopening of daycares so that parents can go to work knowing that their little ones are safe. We also know that the childcare system in Canada is not yet fully a system. And we can't get back to a strong economy if we don't address the labor force attachments that women need. There is a link between gender-based violence and economic security and childcare and pay equity. These things are all related. When women are able to stand on their own feet, to earn a good income, to participate in the economy, they are less vulnerable to gender-based violence. Not totally 100% safe and free, but it makes a difference. And we are committed to that work. And we do look forward to coming to agreement with our provinces and territories, because it's mid-July and parents are nervous, and rightfully so. And we need women to get back to work so that we can restart the engines of our economy.
Thank you, Minister. And I would like to quickly shift to Minister Qualtrough. You had acknowledged that you did not do the gender-based analysis on the CERB program, but now that you've had more time, your government still insists on shifting towards a more penalizing system of CERB. How do you think that's going to impact the most marginalized, especially women? Have you done a gender-based analysis on this new policy?
Thanks for the question. And I really want to emphasize that we are not going after the most vulnerable by penalizing CERB fraudsters. We're actually going after the people that prey on the most vulnerable. And I
Thank you very much, Minister Qualtrough. Our time has expired. I am now going to move over. I'm now going to move over to Raquel Dancho. Raquel, you have 5 minutes for this round to start.
Great.
Go ahead,
Thank
Vi.
you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ministers, for joining us this morning to help the committee study the impacts of COVID-19 on women. We greatly appreciate you being here virtually. We know that it has been 131 days since this committee last met, so I think all committee members recognize the importance and the opportunity for parliamentarians to study the unique impacts on women as a result of this pandemic and critically the government's response to it. Committee members are also well aware that women make up the overwhelming majority of students in this country, over 60%. However, like many other sectors, they do not occupy many of the senior positions like PhD programs and faculty positions, and all of this despite making up the majority of undergraduate students for the last 30 years. So I think that this is quite a concern, and as a result, the summer months are critical to helping women students work to afford tuition and continue their academic careers. I know this because I was a student who was a waitress and worked to help pay my education for many years. So I will make reference to some of the Manitoba statistics that I believe are relevant to this. The restaurant, hotel, and retail sector, which is dominated by young people, particularly student women, represented 43.5% of job losses. Younger Manitobans aged 15 to 24 accounted for 35.3% of job losses, and 56% of Manitoba job losses were women. Now, the Canada Student Service Grant is, in fact, a response to these alarming statistics. I'm sure you would agree. And I have to say I do applaud the government for thinking in innovative ways to support students who have been unable to find summer work. And frankly, this grant would have been of great help to me a decade ago. So with that in mind, Minister Qualtrough, would you permit me to ask you a few quick questions about the grant, given it's on the minds of Canadians and students?
Oh, my apologies. I was on mute. Absolutely understanding that it's not my file. I can give you the most information that I have and refer you to a colleague and commit to giving you feedback if I can't answer with your details.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. I do appreciate that. As part of this study, can you confirm then, my understanding was that this grant did in fact fall under your department. Is that not the case?
Technically under the Department of ESDC, but under the responsibilities of the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth.
Okay. So it was not one of your officials that recommended the We Charity to run the program?
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I was not the program lead on this, but it would have, of course, been ESDC officials who supported Minister Chagar in the development of this program, yes.
Okay. Minister, can you confirm if there were other organizations in that department that were considered before the decision was made to award the $900 million sole source contract to We Charity? And did that include any women-led organizations?
I'm not privy to that information. I do understand that part of the decision-making rationale was with the speed with which it had to be rolled out. But again, my colleague is much better positioned to answer the specificity, and we can get that information for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. And I do remember the announcement. It was $9 billion in total for students, I believe on April 22nd, was it? And then it did take about 2 months to roll out the program. And I'm sure you would agree, it was a bit of a disaster of a rollout. And I do believe that this grant is very important, so I'm very keen to see it be successful, but I am concerned. Was this decision brought forward at all to Cabinet so that the Women and Gender Equality Minister could provide her feedback regarding the impact on women or the GBA+? Are you aware of any of that?
I cannot, of course, divulge Cabinet confidence, but as a matter of process, the Cabinet does have such discussions.
Okay, can you confirm, or maybe perhaps Minister Monsef can confirm if she provided feedback regarding the sole source contract to We and the impact on women? Oh, you're
Minister
muted,
Monsef,
Minister.
you're on mute.
Thank you for that question and for sharing a bit of your own personal story as someone who worked in a restaurant for 5 years. I appreciate that. As Minister Qualtrough said, we can't obviously divulge cabinet matters, but let me be very clear. The purpose of these programs are to support students who are ready to step up and to do things in their community that make a difference, that ease suffering.
For sure. Sorry, Minister, we just have to move on. I only have half a minute left. I'll just get right to it. I'm just looking for confirmation from either of you and any of your involvement on this, particularly Minister Monsef with the approval on the women angle. And Minister Qualtrough, can you confirm that your department will turn over all documentation and make witnesses involved in this WE scam, as it's been called, available to the Ethics Commissioner for their investigation? And will your department fully cooperate with the Auditor General and the Procurement Ombudsman?
Well, thank you. I can absolutely confirm that we will work with the Auditor General and comply with any such request.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to Marc Sauret. Marc, you have 5 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, puis merci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ministers Qualtrough and Monsef, for your presentations, for your work, the work that you're doing to support these organizations throughout Canada, specifically throughout the pandemic. My first question for Minister Monsef has to do with the $50 million for women's shelters and domestic violence.
Local organizations, Horizons Women's Center in West Nipissing, Executive Director Linda Lafantaisie, Renault, and also with Executive Director of the YWCA in Greater Sudbury, Marilyn Gorman, and they're very, very thankful for the support during this pandemic, especially related to the support for, when we're looking at women being quarantined and the additional support, so they don't have to worry about the pandemic. They don't have to worry about. They could focus on the support for the women and the flexibility in the funds. So also, Madame Lafantaisie mentioned about she was so relieved about the partnership, the work that the federal government and the province of Ontario with Premier Ford. The opposition here earlier mentioned about cherry picking, but the organizations were really supportive of and really thankful that the federal government and the provincial government is working together to make sure that we support women organizations. So I wanted an opportunity for you, Mr. Monsef, to elaborate the partnership that you've been working closely with Premier Ford in Ontario to support women organizations across the province.
Thank you, MP Sauret, and it's wonderful to see you well. When the pandemic hit, the moment it really hit home for us, my team and I, was when the Prime Minister had to self-isolate. We got on the phone with women's organizations, our partners across the country, and the next 48 hours were a series of phone calls. And they all said the same thing when we asked them, what should we do first? They said the last place that women will go when they need help is shelters and sexual assault centers. So you better make sure that when she knocks on that door is open to her and that it's safe. We've been very fortunate to have very positive relationships with all our partners across the country, other ministers responsible for women and gender equality in every province and territory. And we realized that the rate of response was key. We had to get the money out very, very quickly. The flexibility was going to be key. And in order to ensure that there wasn't overlap of our funds, resources are always limited, to make sure that there wasn't gaps created in the supports we were providing to organizations across the community, working very closely with our provincial and territorial counterparts would be key. And when we came up with a list in partnerships with women's organizations like the Women's Shelters Canada folks, with like the Canadian Women's Foundation folks, we were then able to share that list with provincial and territorial partners, who then went through it, added to it, told us who was getting funding already. And when we rolled out the funds went in a coordinated fashion to organizations who are providing supports to some 3 million women and children across the country. So that partnership is going to be key in the ongoing efforts in response to COVID, but also for the work that is going to need to happen with the National Action Plan.
Merci, Madame la Ministre.
Thank you for your answer, Minister. I have 1 minute left, so I have a combined question. The issue of the internet also is not simply an issue during the pandemic. This issue in these rural communities, and also support for Indigenous communities.
Minute I have left there, Mr. Monsef, for you to talk about rural connectivity and the importance of the internet, and also our support to Indigenous communities, because it's really important in my riding of Nickel Belt.
Access to high-speed internet is an essential service that Canadians deserve access to. While 87% of Canadians have that access, disproportionately First Nations communities and those in rural parts of our country do not. We're moving into the world of telework and telehealth and staying connected to our loved ones more and more online. And while there are some 400,000 households that are and will be connected to high-speed internet because of our government's support, too many, some 2 million, have yet to have that connectivity. The Universal Broadband Fund, which we'll have more to say about, has the goal of connecting 100% of Canadians to this essential service because it's also a matter of fairness as well as productivity and competitive advantage.
Thank you very much, Minister Monsef. The time has expired. We're now moving over to Nellie Shen for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Minister Monsef, the most haunting statement I heard from the witnesses yesterday was from Lorraine Whitman, an elder with the Glooscap First Nation in Nova Scotia and president of Native Women's Association of Canada. She essentially said that the Indigenous community is hurt because they made themselves vulnerable by telling their stories with a good faith that the government was going to follow through with their promise of action on the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, but didn't. There's deep disappointment. I'd like to say it's simply wrong to toy with people's pain and make them relive their trauma over and over as they retell their story, and then crush their hope by not following through. This is another barrier that brings us backward in the process of reconciliation. Indigenous communities already struggle with hope. We see it in the high cases of youth suicide. The final report on the national missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls was meant to be released in June, and the government has used COVID as an excuse to delay the release. What is the government's plan if we get a second wave? And this is a matter of justice, restoring trust, and being serious about reconciliation. When can these communities expect the final report? Thank you.
Thank you for that very important question. As a student activist, when the Prime Minister of Canada in the previous government said that the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls was not a priority, that was crushing. We are moving forward to respond to the calls for justice, and my colleagues, including Minister Bennett and I, have been working with Indigenous communities across the country. We held gatherings, virtual gatherings with the province of Yukon, with Manitoba, for example. The work is ongoing. COVID has changed things, but we heard clear from families, from survivors, from Indigenous leaders, nothing for us without us, and we are co-developing that response. I will also say we didn't wait to respond. We've already invested historic amounts in women's organizations supporting Indigenous communities across the country. We are already working to close gaps. The K-12 education gap, for example, the cap on funding, that was removed. Over half of the boiled water advisories have been removed. Sex discrimination in the Indian Act has been removed. We've put forward legislation around Indigenous languages and supports for children in care and restoring those rights back to those families. Some hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested directly in response to COVID.
Minister,
we have a long way to go, and more
I'd
will
like to
be
ask
done.
another very important question. How will the minister protect Indigenous women and children in abusive homes now and if there is a second wave? Because many have repeatedly said that they are more afraid of domestic violence than they are of COVID.
And they have every reason to be afraid. They are disproportionately affected by gender-based violence. And we as a country are going to benefit when our communities are safer for Indigenous women and girls. I will say, MP Shin, it's not if there will be a second wave, it's how the second wave or the third wave will look and where it will be hit hardest. In Indigenous communities, where there has been containment effort, where communities have been in charge of their own health services, able to share their data, they've been able to respond really effectively, and I want to thank them for that. We are going to continue to support those who are providing shelters, for example, for Indigenous women and girls on reserve and off reserve. We are going going to continue to ensure they are at the table and that we are hearing directly from them. And we are going to continue to ensure that they benefit from the various government supports that are in place right now so that they are not made even more vulnerable because of COVID. This is work that provinces and territories are also committed to, and I'm grateful to see that in 2020 this is multi-party support. There's multi-party support for this work because Indigenous communities for too long have been let down by governments. We can do better, and we will.
So I thank you for that. I would just like to know what is the long-term plan then for the, as you say, the next wave and whatever that will look like, and the long term, because this is a cycle that needs to be broken.
Unfortunately, we're right out our time. We are going to move over to Sonia. Sonia, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister Monsef, Minister Corlo, for being here with us today. And thank you the work you are doing for all Canadians. My first questions to Minister Monsef. Minister, yesterday at committee, we heard women have been hit hard by COVID-19. One of the key to restarting our economy will be ensure that there's a proper childcare. I know that question asked before, but my question is a little bit different. So that women can return the workforce. Some of the industries that have been affected the most by COVID-19 and made up mostly of women. For example, we heard 91% of nurses are women. 76% of teachers are women, and 56% of food accommodation services are women. As well as we are seeing that the majority of jobs coming back recently are being filled by men, not women. How is the government looking to address childcare in collaboration with the provinces?
Thank you so much for that important question. We were already working to support the creation of some 40,000 childcare spaces in the country. And Minister Hussein and I have a joint mandate from the Prime Minister to develop the Early Learning and Childcare Secretariat, and that work is underway. 97% of early learning and childcare workers are women. And the wages that they're paid, the way that different provinces and territories treat early learning and childcare affects them. Working with the Canadian Teachers Federation very closely over the past few months, and shout out to Cassie Howlett. And they're having their AGM this week. These women, these teachers, were expected to look after their own kids while coming up with online modules for children across the country. So they've endured incredible hardships, and we thank them for stepping up. We are working very closely with provinces and territories. Minister Freeland and the Prime Minister have had weekly meetings, First Ministers meetings with provinces and territories, with the premiers, and of the many initiatives that we are working together on to ensure a safe restart to our economy, childcare is one of them, and it has to be one of them. This sector was hard hit before COVID. The sector needed support before COVID. COVID has changed their entire business model, and we owe it to them, to our children, and to our economy to get it right. So those negotiations are ongoing, and more needs to be done. But I do look forward to, one of the other good things coming out of COVID being a stronger, more whole system of early learning and childcare.
And my next question is in the increase in human trafficking. We already had discussion on that many times, but there's a concern of these young women and more vulnerable due to COVID-19 as well. We have heard that domestic violence is on the rise during this pandemic. How is the government working to ensure that young girls and women are feeling safe during COVID-19 and moving forward?
Rates of online violence are increasing, particularly rates of sexual exploitation of children. We know that human trafficking affects children. People say girls under the age of 18 are being trafficked. Those women under the age of 18 are children. And that is something that we can talk about differently, only to raise the alarm. we are expecting and paying very close attention to what front lines are telling us, a surge in supports being sought by those who experience increased rates of gender-based violence. During the pandemic, when we were in phase 1 in the isolation measures, we are preparing for that increase with the 1,000+ organizations across the country on human trafficking. The hotline hours are restored and it's open 24/7, but there's additional funding coming too very soon in partnership with Minister Blair and Public Safety to provide those organizations who are doing really important work an opportunity to apply and seek greater supports. This is a heinous crime, and it's also part of our response to the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls inquiry, the calls for justice.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Minister Monsef. We're now going to move over to Andriane. Andriane, you have 2.5 minutes. Thank you.
Oui, j'espère.
I hope that ministers will be able to give me concrete and quick answers. Minister Qualtrough, we saw that women have a lot of precarious and part-time jobs. So when it comes to AI, do you think that that regime right now is discriminating against women? And if it is, then how are you going to fix that problem so that we can get out of the pandemic in better shape? Thank you for your question. I can tell you that we have learned many different lessons when it comes to AI during the pandemic. Now, everyone who's working part-time doesn't benefit from similar services from AI. So I can guarantee you that we're going to try and find a solution to this problem. Thank you. Minister Monsef, do you have a deadline when it comes to that national plan to help women? A particular date? Because there is a project called Project at Home, which is a project that seeks to help women who are victims of physical domestic violence. 3 organizations out of 7 received help. What more can we do to help women who are being exploited sexually?
I'm afraid I didn't get the translation there. Could you repeat the translation, please?
Andriane, go ahead.
What I was saying, first of all, do you have a date for your national action plan for women who are victims of domestic violence? Yes or no?
We are working very closely with provinces and territories. Those conversations have begun, and it is in my mandate.
Parfait. J'aimerais terminer parce que j'ai posé une autre question que la traduction.
I'd like to finish, and I'd like to ask my other question. We talked a lot about sexual exploitation and how important it is to help women. 3 Kalak out of 7 managed to get financing from your department. So 3 of them are really trying to work hard to end the cycle of violence that women are subject to. Could we perhaps increase the admissibility criteria?
Translation. I'm going to have to move on. Lindsay, you have 2.5 minutes.
Thank you. Minister Qualtrough, many pregnant women who would have been entitled to maternity benefits have found out that because of losing their jobs during the pandemic, they won't have collected enough hours at work to qualify for EI, and they were counting on that money. In April, you stated they will have full access to their maternity and parental entitlements. There is not a scenario where we don't make this right for people. So now it's July. Can you tell us how you have made this right for people? Have you done that yet? And what's the delay for the benefits that these parents are counting on?
Thank you for that question. In April, I was referring to the challenge within the CERB system of people not having access to CERB and maternity and parental benefit. That has been remedied, so people will have access. They won't be penalized in any way for any time or any systemic issues. In terms of the reality that there are many workers who are concerned that they've not met minimum requirements to qualify for EI regular or special benefits, in particular women are worried about their inability to access maternity and special and parental benefits. And of course, the timelines for giving birth are fixed, and there's much uncertainty. So I can tell you this is my number one priority. We are working on a solution that will assist many women. And in the coming days, and I mean this when I say in the coming days, I'll be announcing a path forward on this very issue.
Glad to hear that. Good. I'd like to actually quickly address the issue of unpaid work that so many women obviously are facing, and the recognition of that unpaid work. Now, certainly one of the things that we can move forward on in terms of progress on this is something like paid sick leave, and recognizing the need for that across the board, which your government has promised, and we're looking forward to seeing action on that. But can you address ways that you believe that your government could better recognize women's unpaid work? And I specifically point to ILO conventions C-190 and C-189. Has your government talked about the ratification of those conventions?
I apologize, I don't know the details of those conventions, but I can assure you that we need, and we talk very often about recognizing, and certainly the unpaid work done by women. Sorry, my brain is working faster than my mouth, but as my colleague, Minister Monsef, said, if nothing else, this pandemic has highlighted the need to recognize unpaid care, and the myriad of
Thank you so much. Thank you, Minister Qualtrough. No, it's okay. We got started. Where time is just so select. We are going on to our final round. In this final round, due to equality, what we're going to do is 3 minutes for the CPC, 3 minutes for the Liberals, or the government, so that we can finish our time. I'm going to pass the floor over to Raquel for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Before I get into my questions, I just want to mention, I know that I had some questions that didn't get answered. I know the block had some really great questions that we ran out of time for. So I'm just wondering if the ministers can commit to getting us our answers in writing as soon as possible. Yeah, I see nodding. Okay, thank you very much. I think that would be great. And also, I just would like to mention, if we could get the ministers to commit to return to committee. We had a good discussion yesterday. We may very well be at this again in the fall to expand on our study. So I'd very much appreciate if you both would join us then again if you are available. I see more nodding. Okay, perfect. So for my final questions, I'm just going to ask a little bit more about the GBA Plus. I completely understand that everything was rolled out extremely quickly. I do recognize that, but I do have some concerns with, particularly for women entrepreneurs. Many of them don't use checking accounts, so they're really not, they aren't able to access any of the business-centered programs that your government rolled out in very rapid succession. So, but I do believe if a GBA Plus would have been applied or would be applied now, it would show that. So I'm just wondering, Minister Monsef, could you commit to bringing that to your cabinet colleagues so we can get some amendments to these business programs in favor of entrepreneurial women?
We are working on that, absolutely, on the Women Entrepreneurship Program on its own. I do also want to say, shortly after things were rolled out in the first phase, we established a GBA Plus task force that combed through all the measures that the government had introduced. This was like after the first month, and was able to provide that intersectional gender lens and do the analysis as well as provide guidance. So that task force is working very closely with the Minister of Finance as well as every other government department, because we recognize that the vulnerable have been hit the hardest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I do appreciate that. And when you're working with that task force, if you can also look at the Canadian Commercial Rent Assist program. I always seem to get the acronym wrong for that one, but that one in particular seems to just not be going very well for women. So if you can really, really hone in on those, it would mean a lot to the women in my riding that own small businesses. I'll just end off quickly.
The rent assist, do you want me to respond to that?
No, just if you can commit to looking at it.
We're working with the provinces and territories on it. They have most levers there.
Great. And then I'll just finish on the London Abused Women's Centre. I do recognize from your definition that it wasn't a cut, the funding was up, but I am very disappointed that you, as the Minister of this department, did not renew it. I think that they were doing really good work, really not good nonpartisan work, and I still just can't really understand why you didn't deem them to be a good department or a good organization to fund. I really can't understand that. So I'd appreciate if you can commit to looking at that funding model, and particularly under your new funding under public safety, if you could commit to looking at the London Abused Women's Centre and to really look at funding them and very seriously take that back to your desk.
The London Women's Abuse Centre has received funding from
not specifically for human trafficking.
Thank you very much. Our time is over. We are now going to move over, and we've got 3 minutes. Andrew, you have the floor for 3.
And thank you to our ministers for being here today. My first question is, well, I'm going to ask them both at the same time. GBA is administered by each respective department. Does WAGE give common guidelines on how each department should do their GBA evaluations? And can you please talk to us a little bit about why GBA Plus was not conducted on the programs that were rolled out during the pandemic? And lastly, if there's time, to talk to us a little bit about the GBA task force. Thank you.
Yes, WAGE provides those guidelines. We also, in the past few years, have handed over the training of the public service to the School of Public Service. And so we work very closely with them. We have applied an intersectional gender lens to everything. You'll see in the economic snapshot just how thorough we've been. It's really quite historic. And, you know, in the first week or two of the pandemic, as Minister Qualtrough mentioned, our job was to take into account the most vulnerable, to use what we knew and to rely on our public servants for their guidance to ensure that the most vulnerable are supported. And so the focus was on rapid response and ensuring that the most vulnerable are supported. But then very quickly, we restored processes that were in place around GBA Plus. We set up a task force. The task force worked with every government department. When the Black Lives Matter protests particularly escalated, we partnered with the Anti-Racism Secretariat and 21 other departments to further fine-tune GBA Plus. So I want to assure you that that work is being done because it has to be done. And when it's not done, you know, in the formal kind of way, we rely on the intellect and the experience and the wisdom of those around the table to move us forward. And of course, our amazing partners across the country who keep us accountable and informed.
Thank you. I have 45 seconds. Okay, perfect. And in 2009 and 2015, the Auditor General's report stated that the Conservative government's use of gender-based analysis was lacking. Could you tell us how this government and your department specifically have embedded gender-based analysis in the development of their policies, legislative programs, and initiatives? Thank you.
Well, we returned the word gender and to our foreign policy. We put forward a feminist international assistance policy. But in addition to that, we opened the 12 out of 16.
Thank you very much. Our time has expired. Our time has expired. Thank you. On behalf of the committee, I would greatly like to thank Minister Qualtrough and Minister Monsef. I'll be right with you. And all of the departments for showing today. I'm afraid we did get to speak to the excellent staff that are with you both today, but we do know that there is a very important committee of the whole today that we need to attend. But on behalf of the committee, I would graciously like to thank you all. This has been a wonderful time. May I please pass it over to Andrea? You have a question?
Oui, mais en fait, c'est que j'ai une question qui semble même pas avoir été traduite.
Yes, in fact, I had a question which doesn't seem to have been translated because I had no reaction from the minister. It was the question about the CALAC, meaning the organization that helped victims of sexual exploitation.
sure that we are able to go forward. We are asking that if there are any questions, and I know both ministers have addressed that they said yes, if there are questions that were answered that due to the timeframes were not being able to be responded to, if both Minister Qualtrough and Minister Monsef, thanks for the thumbs up, if you could please write those responses, that would be greatly appreciated. Once again, on behalf of all of the women in Canada, I would like to thank everybody for putting the time forward and making sure that we're here today to discuss these extremely important issues. It's better for all Canadians when we're doing our work. So thank you very much. Today's meeting is adjourned. And I forgot.